Good morning. Welcome. So glad to have you here, and so glad to be able to lead this discussion on a very relevant and interesting topic. Now, new and emerging technologies we all know are driving digital transformation big time, and it is actually reshaping the way organizations do business. So much so that a lot of organizations today are able to do s- a lot of things that they didn't think was possible a few years ago. Everything has become seamless, everything has become quick. But as we know, the learning curve is rather steep. It's not been an easy journey, and in fact, even the largest or biggest multinational organizations, or even the most seasoned IT professionals, are having a tough time coping up with new technologies and their impact on business operations. So this is a favorite topic of discussion everywhere. So we're here to sort of try and understand uh, first of all, the new technologies that are shaping the cybersecurity domain, and also what organizations can do to actually keep up with these technologies and use that to prevent data breaches and loss of critical information and data. So, in the short time that we have, we'll try and tackle as many aspects of it as possible. So, let's begin with this question about what exactly are the new technologies or some of the new technologies that are shaping the cybersecurity domain, and what are some of the things that, or what are some of the critical technologies that organizations need to know and adapt in order to keep up with the whole thing. So let's begin with Rajesh.
Okay, it's a pretty vast topic. I think we can talk
Yeah,
for a day.
yeah,
But just to for a precise perspective, uh, the technologies that we are currently trying to look at from the information security side, so it's depending on what your business is trying to adopt as a digital transformation, right? So first of all, everybody should understand that what is their TLC. Are you the first adapter, or are waiting for the technology to be mature and then adopt it? So your security strategy should be in line with what business is trying to implement it. That's why sometimes we see the over security where the business needs are small and you have pretty big budget on the security side. We overthink, okay, we might be using the technology rather than reacting to what business is trying to do. So from my perspective, we need to build the technologies that can provide the cyber resiliency, the three aspects of how do you detect, how do you prevent, and how do you respond to the threats. So in terms of the detection, definitely the SOC and innovation in the SOC. And what we need to do is, how many of you know that how many days it takes for an organization to detect an attack, an average in the global perspective? Any guesses? 277 days. That's an average. And how the organization, in terms of response, what is the average response time is for any cyber attack an organization is able to do it, an average? Any guesses for this? To the response contain, it's 4 weeks, right? So we are, imagine an advancement of technology that we have in our armory. Still it takes 277 days to detect and 4 weeks to respond back, right? Now what we want to do is we want to use the advancement in the technology to shorten that gap. How soon we can detect those incidents, how effectively we can respond to the incidents. Anything for that, that aspects probably we can look at machine learning. I don't want to touch AI because I have a different opinion on AI. That's a different topic altogether. But in terms of machine learning and making the incident really screen to see what are the malicious threats that you need to protect or you need to respond to. That's a very important thing. Anything with technology related to that, maybe having a SOAR and making a advanced SIM systems and XDR. That's a very important part that we normally want to go for it. And the two another aspects that I want every organization to look at is when you're going for digital transformation. Now we are moving from a traditional connectivity to the API-based connections, right? So those are very much vulnerable, like any other connections that we have. So if you are in the digital transformation journey, please look at your APIs, how to secure the APIs, ensure that they are not leaking your information, because that's how you're going to connect with any other third parties in the future, right? So that's another important part. Another one is DevSecOps, the solutions for ensuring that you embed cybersecurity and identify your threats while you're developing it. That's another
Yeah,
other big aspect that you need to take care, because
absolutely.
if you wait until the end, there are two things going to happen. One is that you are in close to the target date, business will accept the risks and go live because they want to go live today. How soon you can launch your product is something that's the main goal for the business. So
Yeah.
when you're able to detect those security threats and security gaps while you're developing the code, that will help to ensure that you have a really mature, secure product at the end of the life cycle.
Absolutely, and I think the point that you raised about shortening the gap between detection and response, I think that's the whole
Yeah.
crucial bit over here. So I would like to hear your views about that, Mr. Ahmed. What do you say about this thing about shortening the time gap between detection and response? Do you think that is the critical aspect that companies should look into? Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I mean, when it comes to technology, what how I see it that business should not jump to the latest and the greatest just for because it's shiny or this is what's available, this is the trend in the market without doing a fair analysis for the technology and the business after understanding the business and doing the analysis for the technology because I mean, for how I see it usually, whenever there is a new technology, there is no risk. So if you don't understand the risk behind it and even you don't understand your business, you might throw yourself in a very dangerous spot. So basically, if you think that the IoT, I mean, IoT is not really known for now, but it's available. You think that the IoT will help you in your business, and you don't understand the consequences behind it. You might find yourself in very dangerous situation, especially in the OT technology when it comes to building like or implementing the OT technology within maybe petrochemical or any kind of infrastructure, you might find the risk you need to mitigate. So first of all, you need to understand your business. Then you need to understand the risk associated with the technology, understanding the technology itself. Now, reducing the time between the risk and again the risk and
The detection and response, actually.
yeah, of course. I mean, you need to understand. You need to build first of all the whole mechanism of the SOC or the incident handling. You need to have that this kind of capability internally or maybe outsourced. But you need to have the incident handling and response plan clearly identified. It's not only the part of the detection, and you need to go through the whole circle, including the containment and even the communication. And communication is very important part. So yes, I do agree with that. But you need what I say that you need to plan ahead and
Absolutely.
even do the exercises and this to
Yes.
ensure that the you walk through the journey and understand the overall how to handle such risk and how to mitigate it.
Absolutely. And I think, again, the point about risk becomes crucial here, understanding risk and understanding the technology to mitigate that risk. How would you respond to that, Mika?
The same as my colleagues said here. So the time to detect the attack, okay, that's very crucial,
Right.
and the response because I still, like my colleague said, I still don't believe the artificial intelligence yet because the data which we feed to train the artificial intelligence model, okay, first of all we need to make sure that that data itself is not poisoned. All right. But when it comes to the machine learning and the other factors, yeah, it's very crucial to detect the threat actors as early as possible. And the incident response program which you have developed, it should not limit it into a couple of pages or the document, but that has to be exercised on a regular interval. The, the tabletop exercises, the war exercises, that will make your colleagues be ready to respond to a unprecedented attack or something. So that will reduce the 4 weeks of time into a very limited to respond to threats. And like my colleague said, when it comes to adoption of new technology, first of all, we have to have the homework to identify the risk behind that. That's fine.
Yeah, now that brings us to a very interesting aspect about the human element in cybersecurity. That is something that is very crucial and it's always been there, but it's been overlooked. So, to both of you, I would like to actually ask, how can these emerging technologies and these new gen technologies help sort of lessen that human error aspect in cybersecurity based on your experience? Can we take it, Patrick, and then um, G?
Sure. Thank you, Anita. Thanks for asking that question. I know Rajesh very diplomatically said that we will leave AI out, but I think that is the elephant in the room, right?
Absolutely.
What is AI going to do for us, right? As we speak, you know, my son is going to pursue his master's in AI in Singapore. I mean, next month my wife and I are going to drop him there. So that is the trend, right? Kids are going and studying AI, and AI is going to come and do something phenomenal. Is what the world is waiting for.
Absolutely.
But I think, as our colleague here said, feeding wrong data into AI, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? So there's going to be a huge balance that has to be struck. But we cannot avoid AI. Now, recently I came across a tool called uno.ai, UNO.ai, which is very interesting because even the recent RSA conference that happened in San Francisco, one of the biggest topics that was talked about is eliminating the L1. Now, there are L1 analysts. Rajesh talked about the SOC. There are L1 analysts, who are fresh out of college, sitting in front of these huge monitors, looking at logs all day. And he talked about the SIM as well. The SIM does the correlation, and you look at an alert, and lo and behold, I mean, there would be like 90 days which goes without a real alert, and then the 91st day you get an alert. It is red. It's as red as possible. And the guy looks at it and he knows there is an alert, and then he escalates it. It goes through the escalation matrix, right? And then it goes to the CSER team, it goes to various other teams, the forensics teams get involved. This whole thing takes a lot of time. He was telling about 4 weeks. Yes,
Absolutely.
4 weeks just goes in escalations, right? And who will bell the cat, right? Now you bring AI, it does all this, correlates this, and I mean, I know I'm talking in a utopian world here. If AI works the way it is supposed to work, and the way I said it, the phenomenal thing it can do, you can eliminate all that and you can respond within seconds. So that is where I think we are headed towards. Are we there yet? No. Are we at least scratching the surface? Probably yes.
Jivan,
Well,
how would you
I agree with Patrick. So you can like AI, you can dislike AI, but you can't ignore AI. So we all know like everyone jumped the bandwagon when the ChatGPT became into the limelight, but it's been there in existence since long time. Applying it into cybersecurity world, there are two elements that Rajesh and Ahmed talked about. So how do we reduce that dwell time? So looking at it, why is such a long dwell time? Why are we looking at 277 days for even detecting? There are two aspects to it in my view. One is the slow and the low attack pattern. So the attacker tried to slowly sneak in and stays there. It doesn't create the red alarms that Patrick talked about on day one. And the second aspect of it is our detection mechanisms are also still legacy. Yes, it is aligned to MITRE framework and all of that, but we are still working with the traditional based SIMs with use cases on top of it, with looking at rule based alerting, etc. It's not going to cut. So that's why the needle in the haystack, finding the process of finding needle in the haystack requires a boost, requires a different approach. And in my view, AI is a two-edged sword. It is helping the defenders, but it is also helping the offenders. So today, AI is helping attackers to leverage phishing as a service, ransomware as a service, and that is much more prevalent than we know it. And if you look at it 10 years ahead of time, we would not be having one person trying to attack hundreds of companies. We already see bots trying to attack thousands of companies in a split of a second, right? Same thing is going to be multiple, quadrupled or whatever. So we have to consider AI definitely, and look at how that the second edge of the sword can help the defenders. And you also talked about the human element, and that's where the learning curve comes. So we can't be behind the curve and say, okay, this is utopian world, AI, let's see how it happens. But just like when smartphones came, when internet came, so all that revolution, people started adopting it, and that learning curve went and gone, right? So AI is going to be the same way. So we have to join that bandwagon and understand the nitty-gritties of it, and start applying the AI concepts in the defense. Pretty much because we live in an environment where the technologies are hyper connected. You can't have an ERP system that is siloed. You can't have a business application that is siloed. All of these applications are interconnected, hyper connected. So the traditional mechanisms of monitoring an application, or approaching an alert based is not going to help. You need to look at it from holistic aspects, and look at it how various use cases can help find that needle in the haystack. That's my view.
Absolutely, and I think that there is a very, very important thing in what you said, wherein technology, anything, it can be AI, it can be anything. It's always a double-edged sword. You can use it. I mean, it can be used for harm, or it can be used for good. So very important for us to identify where it's headed, and that's where Mr. Ahmad also said it's very important to understand the risk and understand the technology. So I think that aspect is very crucial here. Um, I'd also like to very quickly hear from you all about, all of this brings in the question of governance and laws around cybersecurity and the need to regulate, a lot of things. So, how do you think, the governance aspects should be, modified?
Yeah.
Rajesh, do you want?
So if you're looking into that, we are. How many of you know that what are the three biggest economies in the world? U.S., China, third one, anything else? It's cybercrime, $10 trillion. Right now, it's not a organization issue. It's not a particular country's issue. It's a global issue, right?
Correct.
So what these standards and the regulations and laws are going to give is that how a country or an organization or sector, how they can adopt the culture of cybersecurity.
Absolutely.
So that is actually being enforced. Previously, it used to be frameworks and standards. Now it
Correct.
became laws.
Correct.
And there is a reason why it became laws. The government saw that what is the intensity of the cybercrime in a global scale. So I see that these are very helpful. The reason is it will ensure and enforce the organizations and the sectors to comply to the minimum security standards. And that brings the innovation by itself, that how we can have a better ROIs in our security spending, right? That gives that, how we can utilize the resources within the organization within the same budget range to come up with innovative ways to protect your organization from several threats. So it definitely gives that advantage to have such regulations and standards, and they are evolving. If you look into it, European Union has released their first AI standard. Now they're only tackling at the ethical nature of the AI and the responsibility of AI. So that's the reason I said, like, why we are not the early adopters of AI. The reason is, like, is it really mature to understand that the output that AI is giving is ethical the way that we are looking at?
Absolutely.
Because it's all depending on how we are training our AI. Imagine the same technology is there at the bad people side. With a $10 trillion, this economy can also make use of that technology. And they can also train the AI how to be bad.
Absolutely.
So there should be equal balance, and to be ready, to be frank, we need to adopt the AI as early as possible because they're already adopting it. So it is a global threat. It is to be frank, a bigger war, and compared to the any wars are happening, probably there is no blood involved, but there is a lot of sweat and
Yes.
the response involved in that war. So I think we are going to adopt the AI, and we are first what we need to look at is how all these standards and government laws can make the AI to be done in ethical way.
Absolutely. Ms. Ahmed, would you agree with that? That we need laws or more regulations that uh, allow us to use technology ethically and not for harm, basically.
Okay. So the UAE, I'll not say pioneer overall, but it's been pioneered at least within the region when it comes to legislation. So we have already the UAE cyber law, and been here for some time now. We have since 2020 or 2022 the UAE personal data protection law,
Yes.
as well as the overall organization of the information security, like the UAE information assurance regulation and other. And but the UAE overall been pioneered in the overall technology and adaptation and participation, building the ecosystem and economic for the digital economy, including the establishment of the Hamza University for Artificial Intelligence. Generally, how I see it, yes, we need to regulate and manage the overall spectrum of the technology, including the AI, but we need to balance it, not to kill the innovation and not
Correct.
to. We need to have the correct balance between regulation and management, and giving the freedom for the innovation. Because if we over regulate, will not be able to use the benefit of the AI. But we need to have a certain sets, and I'll come back to this topic. So now we have, for example, we see that a lot of people talking about the going backward. We said, okay, we have now ChatGPT, and by the way, ChatGPT is like a tip of the bird from what AI can do, which is
Correct.
generative
Correct.
AI.
Correct.
I mean, our university and other institute doing research on the utilization of AI in medical field and many other topics. So we see people when we see like they was surprised what ChatGPT can do, and we see, I mean, how many flaws with ChatGPT, that the students specifically when they start using ChatGPT in the school, they just, oh, we cannot identify, is it genuine work for the student, and or is it basically
Yeah. AI
ChatGPT.
generated. Yeah.
So what their reaction is, I don't agree with it. So the reaction that I'm saying that they start letting students, okay, to prove it that it's your genuine work, you need to use pen and paper. I mean, we are
Yeah.
going backward. We have the power, all of those 20 plus years
Absolutely.
using internet and
Yeah.
using the technology, and we tell them because of ChatGPT or any other generative, we tell them, okay, go backward. I disagree with this kind of uh, effort
Yeah.
or this kind of action. So this is one thing. Now what we need to do, we need to provide, like either using the technology or thinking further to just balance, not to kill the overall innovation and this. Now there is one more thing, and within that topic is what we call it trustworthy.
Yes.
AI. I think Mr. Alok spoken this morning about it. So that's also one of the topics that our university is doing research about it. So you need to provide to ensure that the model that you are building and it's being secure and trustworthy and not causing a lot of things. And that's also will lead to the other topics like the ethical AI, and that's
Absolutely.
also a big topic. You need to
Yes.
narrow it down and this. So that's
Absolutely.
overall how I see it.
Absolutely. We'll take it quickly for all three of you. What do you think about, regulations being there to make sure that technology is used in an ethical way?
The these kind of regulations and the processes or the standardization gives you a benchmark or a baseline for the your cybersecurity framework, because that's the foundation. On top of that, you build the blocks of your cybersecurity and the information security. So it's not matter how much you spend in millions or billions, but a lack of process, okay, or correct control can dig a big hole in the primary or the secondary the defenses.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to, for example, a change management, okay, if you are not following a proper change management, so the developers who builds your APIs or the softwares and all always have the pressures to meet the timelines and all. So they will keep pushing all these codes without having a proper vulnerability check or penetrating into the production, which will affect your security as well as your with the credibility into the market, right? And so all these regulators are trying to keep all these organizations. It's not matter of the business. All these organizations to have some sort of benchmark, a common language for the cybersecurity, a basic cybersecurity hygiene, as my colleague said.
Absolutely. How would you react, Jivan, to this?
Yeah, I think if I talk about compliance, privacy comes to my mind. Privacy aspect or risks of privacy is very pervasive these days. According to Gartner, 75% of the world, yeah, is now covered by the laws of privacy.
Absolutely.
So it is very important to take privacy concerns and applicable controls into account. Just as we do, security by design, we have to consider privacy by design. That's number one. Number two is compliance should not drive security. It should be the other way around, in my view. Security should drive compliance. So you should not okay. We are compliant as a byproduct. We are secure. No, we are secured as a byproduct. We are compliant. Should be the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's my 2 cents.
Patrick, how would you react?
So that's a great question, and nice to hear all the views. I'm just going to give you an example which all of us know. Something that happened 3 years ago. Um, of course, the world woke up to something called the coronavirus. We got COVID-19, and all of us went into the lockdowns, and a new world of video conferencing came out.
Yes.
And the moment video conferencing was became a thing, like my kids were on, attending classes on VC, and various other things was done because we were all locked inside our homes. Now there were two products that were competing, right? One is Zoom, right, and the other one is Microsoft Teams. Now I'm not advertising either of them, but this is just a very candid example. Now, as we know, Zoom was attacked by AI,
Yes.
right? Zoom bombing was a thing, and a lot of us were running around finding out what is the Zoom bombing. And while that was happening, right, poor Zoom, I mean, they were actually ahead of the curve at the time, but because of the Zoom bombing, they had to take several steps back. And an unknown product called Teams made its debut.
Absolutely.
Now,
Yeah.
Teams was built on Microsoft's Class D protocol. Now, Microsoft has 4 levels of security compliance: Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D. Class D is the highest security compliance. Now, if I have to talk about Teams, I know most of our video conferencing, most of our meetings happen on Teams today, right? So Teams is HIPAA compliant. It is ISO 27001 compliant. Yes. It is SOC 1, SOC 2 compliant because it's running on the cloud. It is GDPR compliant. I mean, I can give you the long list, but the point is because it was built on those rules, Teams went way ahead
Yeah.
and Zoom just couldn't catch up. Even till today,
Mm.
they are coming back. The question we are asking is: we are driving on the highway. Do we need speed limits or not? And we all know the answer to that, right? If there are no speed limits, then there is going to be crashes all over. And we are talking about the information superhighway, a term which was coined 25 years ago. And I don't think we can go I mean, we can make too much progress without a proper regulation.
Absolutely.
So I think it is absolutely required, but a balance has to be struck, as all of our panelists were talking about. Yeah.
Absolutely. We've run out of time. Those views were absolutely brilliant. I wish we could go on because this is like a huge. This is just not even a drop in the whole ocean. But I'm glad we were able to touch on a few key aspects, like awareness about technology, the need for ethical technology, the balance between good and bad use of technology. These are all very pertinent points, and I'm sure these will all go a long way in helping businesses today tackle these emerging threats and combat security threats effectively. Thank you, gentlemen. That was a very insightful discussion. I'm sure you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much.